I'm Nick Hernandez, and you're listening to the Positivity Matters podcast. On the show, we talk about well being from every way you can imagine. And today I have David Shaw as a guest on the show. David has formerly worked with Nike, he has a background in multimedia storytelling. And I think I will let David tell you more about his story. David, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I really appreciate you having me on. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've got quite a storied and background. Have done quite a few things. Not taken the standard route that everyone takes, and in fact, I think I had mentioned something that my dad was always saying, "When are you going to grow up? When are you going to grow up?" And my response was, "Never. I might get older, I might get mature, but I'm never going to grow up."
That I think I think my dad and I both were in that club, so
It's a good club to be in, especially these days with just everything's changed. I think the moment is here, which is one of the reasons why I think you kind of connected and saw something post that I had posted on LinkedIn, which actually has taken off like a rocket. I'm actually quite taken back because of how much it's really resonated with a lot of people. And obviously, I'm sort of in my late career right now. I've done a number of things. I was, started off as UX designer. Well, it was well before it was a thing. Worked at Nike doing web work internally on their intranet. Left and went to Intel, spent a number of years at Intel doing a number of things. And yeah, so it's been a fun journey. And as I kind of sunset my career to some extent, I've always had this proclivity for play and sort of just being a kid, just really having a different perspective. And I try to help others have that, or at least try things because we know the science behind it. When play, we talk about play, but it's creativity, it's resilience, it's all kinds of things, and it really kind of comes together. And I think it's starting to be the right time with everything going on in the world. I think that there's a lot of this that's needed right now.
yeah, it's something that it's I love. It's always there. There's the rodent researcher Jaak Panksepp, and I guess he mapped out the primal affective drives in mammals, and so apparently we have a play drive. So and maybe with humans it never really shuts off like it does in other
Mm.
animals. They've got this like developmental period when it's like super critical, and but we're like relative to other mammals, like the lack of hair like is an indication of the juvenile state. So I mean, we're all kind of
So, so does that mean if I
relatively.
go bald, I'm going back to being a kid again?
It's yeah, that's that. I think that's exactly right. But so yeah, it's like whoa, that play drive, it's just there, it's still burning, like it's yeah, it's not going anywhere. So I think that's the good news. And then like maybe just like sort of dismantling some of the cultural apparatus that sort of stifles it and suppresses it. And
Yeah.
no it
Absolutely. I mean, I
yeah.
mean, Dr. Stuart Brown, I think I think you're connected to the National Institute for Play, and he's done so much research around this. And you're right, it doesn't go away. It just what I think what happens in our society is that, as kids, we're encouraged to do things like that, and as soon as we kind of get to middle school, we start going, nah, keep that play stuff. Let's get serious about things. And there's just play is just another form of creativity. It's a way of being adaptive and adaptable to situations. And I think you can learn how to be, better, have better relationships. It just is, adults need it just as much as kids do.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we have to like, get all fancy about it and go take lessons and get licenses and all this or whatever. Like,
Yep. And we don't. Funny enough, I'm actually taking a stand-up comedy class right now.
yeah, sometimes it's great to have someone that has that sort of mastery of a domain to kind of point you in the right direction or a direction. Like, so
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I don't know that I would say I'm a master of this domain by all means. There's people out there that are more steeped. Maybe it's just more of my, if you look at sort of the not the values, but the pieces that really drive me, the list that you have, creativity, curiosity, things like that. That's just inherent in my DNA to be this
mm,
way. So, and what I try to do is help others, give them permission, which I don't know if you saw my first post, but I don't know if you saw the second post where I created uh, the permission slip for adults for
mm,
play.
do
And
tell.
I'll happy to send you that. One of
Yeah.
the things that I wanted to do was really help people say, hey, it's okay to be creative, to be yourself, to play, because behind the science, I'm not going to get into the science because I'm just not steeped in that very well, but I know it's there and it really works. And what I find with people once they kind of release themselves and are okay with doing things, they kind of change and they change for the better. So my mission is really to help bring joy in the world and as my not mission, but before I retire, to leave something in this world to make it a better place.
Amen. Like the now you mentioned a few of the strengths. So I see further on down the list, we've got leadership at number 3, love of learning 4,
Hmm.
fairness 5, self-regulation, love, spirituality, hope, judgment, kind of as a top 10ish there.
Hmm.
There's um for me, when I first heard about the strengths, it was at a place where it was in a heavy rumination phase of life, and it was really news to me. I think for some people it's kind of just a affirmation, like, and of course, like, and there's a lot of like insight already that some people have. And what was it like for you to encounter the strengths finder?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not just StrengthsFinder, but I'm kind of a personality geek. I'm always curious. I love human behavior. I'm always curious about, well, why do people do the things that they do? So I've always kind of found this tie-in to personality tests. StrengthsFinder is just one of many. I use Myers-Briggs actually. I'm an ENFP on Myers-Briggs. Now, it's not, there's a lot of discussion. It's not statistically valid, but I think that there are some
Hmm.
key pieces of each of the types that really resonate. So for me, it's kind of reaffirming, but I actually use it when I coach other people. And I've even had
Hmm.
some situations where they kind of realized once I kind of helped them understand their personality type, the light bulb moment went off for them and
Hmm.
it changed their perspective on, for example, one of my good friends is on the spectrum and his parents never understood him. He was always, thinking he was always in trouble. He was a bad kid. I'm like, no, you're not a bad kid. You're just different than your parents. And you do things differently and they don't understand you. And so this is really, and I helped him and he's had conversations with him. So
Hmm.
it's interesting how it can help people.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I'm gonna try to remember what these things are. So the E is extroversion or introversion. The N is intuitive or thinking. No.
It
Uh,
basically, so there's kind of four columns, right? You have
yeah.
you
Is
have
it
the
F is
way that you
feeling or perceiving, and
huh?
then the P is or no. Yeah, wait. F, let's see. It's perceiving
The
or
F is feeling,
judgment.
the F yeah, P is perceiving. So if you think about it, they're kind of four pillars. The first pillar is how you gain your energy. And some people extrovert, they think out loud, and some people are reserved and they're more introspective, and so they go inside when they have to think about something. So that's kind of the first column. The second column is how you understand the world around you. Some people have to touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it for it to be real. And others like me with the N are, when somebody says, well, how did you know that? And like, I just know. It's this information that comes to you in ways that you can't articulate. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is how you make your decisions. And I'm very human oriented. So I'm a feeler. I make decisions based on input. trying to understand where others are at in that so that I'm not making a decision without that counsel. There are other people who are thinkers who are very logical and it's like, well, this is the way it is. I don't care how you feel. So that's some people. And then the last piece is how you navigate your outer world. And for me, I'm a perceiver. You have perceiving and judging. The judging, and don't take it as judging like somebody's making judgments. It's just how you do it. And so the judging people make plans, they follow schedules. I'm the kind of person that, I could be on a vacation that I paid $5,000 for. The car breaks down in the middle of the desert, and everyone else in the car who's a judger is like, oh my God, we got it. We're supposed to be here at a certain time, and what are we going to do? And for me, I'm like, new adventure. Let's go here, right? So that's how that kind of shapes, and that's how I talk about how it shapes me.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder on all those things. Yeah. I
Yeah, yeah,
picture
yeah. No, no worries.
Yeah, go for it. What does ENFP mean to
Oh,
you?
they actually have names. They call the ENFP the champion, or I call myself a catalyst. I'm the one who goes around lighting little fires especially in businesses, to think differently, right? When I've had many situations where, for example, I was a UX designer and I was working with an engineering team, and our team had a vision of what we wanted the experience to be, and the engineers like, nah, there's no way you can do that. It's going to take 6 engineers 6 months. And I looked at them and I was like, are you sure about that? So I went away 2 weeks later and actually created an Android app to show this engineer that it could be done. And so these are the things. That's what ENFP means to me, right? It's being able to show people that there are different ways, that blinders are temporary. There's other ways to
Mm,
perceive and move forward in around problems.
nice. Yeah. I've had this metaphor of there's people that tend the fire and then there's fire starters.
Yep. So there's fire starters, and then I would even build on that and say that there's even the person that sparks before the fire builders, right? They're the person,
Oh,
and that's where I see myself, because I see the fire starters as the people who are, if I come back to the personality typing, the ENF or ESTP, or ENTP, who are the people who are skiing and they'll just, they can't see over the ledge and they're like, I'm just going to go for it, right? Without looking. So that's what I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here, I bring a spark.
Here, did you think about this? Or here, check this out. You bet you've never
Yeah.
seen it done this way. Yep.
I see leadership pretty high up in the strengths there. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I have considered myself a servant leader for years. In fact, that's been something that's driven my career. I
Mm.
was never the kind of person who wanted to, my dad was a venture capitalist, and so he was always the climber. But he also came from an era where that's the expectation. You keep climbing ladders. And
Mm.
for me, I never really wanted to do that because I thought that you lose so much. For me personally, when you move to different levels, I wanted to be on the ground. I wanted to really instigate how things got done differently to help people have better jobs or better experiences at work. So again, I come back to servant leadership. I lead from behind, and I'm a very coaching kind of person. I come from, obviously, I worked at Nike. I was actually also a competitive springboard diver, the platforms and springboards. And then I was a coach
Mm.
after. So I've always had this perspective of seeing things in others that they didn't see and help them reveal it so that they can move forward and grow.
Wow. That's cool. With the coaching, I had someone talking about I think his name's Kale Sanderson, the head coach of wrestling at Penn State now. That
Mhm.
I guess he's known for kind of using having play as part of the vibe of the team, and
Oh,
maybe they'll start with gratitude, and then does anyone have any jokes? And it's like all the focus is on the process
yep.
they I mean, not that they're not competitive, but it's, the competition is competing against yourself in the process. And And I was wondering about the coaching philosophy. If you'd gotten to encounter the sort of the infiltration of the well-being and strengths approach, or if it was like at that era when it wasn't quite there yet, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, in that era, it really wasn't there for me. And again, maybe I'm a little bit different because diving is such a small sport. There are not thousands of people out there that actually do it, and so it's a very close-knit community. And what you're saying is, it is about competition, but it's not about competition against other people. It's competition about how I can do a much better dive or do more spins or really nail that entry into the water. So it's competition against yourself. In that context, I don't think that's changed in the spaces that I coach. And I've always brought that whole person perspective. I was never the coach like, oh, you're crying today or you had a bad day, leave it at home. No, that's a part of you. And how do you be resilient to get through that to actually perform what you're performing? And so it's really, I would say, strong empathy. That's what really it takes. And it's interesting that you said that about Penn State. I need to go look up the coach and because that's really interesting to me. Because you do tend to see a lot of sports as very aggressive, right? You
Yeah.
know,
Mm,
we don't take that empathetic perspective.
yeah. I think there's I heard about it from one of the guests on the show who's a wrestling coach. I think he's let's see, it's like the community development liaison for one of the Federal Reserve districts. And just in talking about play, he mentioned that, just I guess being in that world, he had that as an example. I think they've won like 13 of the last 16 NCAA championships or something like that. It's pretty phenomenal.
That's
It's cool,
amazing.
if they didn't win, then it's like you're kind of like, well, yeah. But
Yep.
when they win and they're like, play first, then it's like, yeah, it's like there's another way. It's possible.
I, absolutely. It just lends
Uh,
credibility to this concept of play. And a lot of people don't try to talk about play because play, at least in the business world, is kind of a really buzzword that kind of turns people off because it just hasn't typically been associated with it. But I do believe that, I mean, there are many ways to approach problem solving and leading and whatnot. And this perspective may not work for everything, but you can do bits and pieces to change how people think and how they perform. And I just think it can build better humans in the end.
yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think it's something of, if you're able to bring yourself into a playful state, like what more is there? Like
A-
you're there.
Absolutely.
You're there. So uh
Absolutely.
and then
Well,
if
there's
you
side.
yeah,
Oh,
so
sorry.
if you can invite other people into that, even cooler. So,
Yeah, well, there's the science is really it's not when you're in that zone, it's flow. Who's it? Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was the one that did work around flow because we use this. I'm certified in Lego Serious Play, and that's a concept
mm,
that we actually use in LSP methodology is flow. And I think it's the runner's high. All these things is flow, which play creates flow states.
what
So,
about the dancers high?
oh, I love that. Yes, Keith Haring is one of my favorite artists, and I was actually spying that Lego to actually buy that set. So I love that you have it.
It's perfect for if you got an hour meeting, you can almost get one together in an hour.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, so we'll let Keith Haring be the squirrel and distract us for a bit if that works for you. Uh I
Absolutely.
I just kind of had sort of a I created my own interpretive lens for looking at art, and it's like one person represents personhood itself, two friendship, three community, and then four it's kind of like, you know, the the utopia, the idea of like community even more vibrant or something with, and the way that I, or what made me sort of get that idea was just the math behind it. With three people and the emergence of community, I think there's three friendships possible with three people, and then when you move to four people, then there's six relationships possible, six friendships possible, and that change in that ratio of number of people to friendship, it peaks there from that movement from three to four. And there's Erasmus. There's he has a quote that's like, "Peace is friendship among many," and so that's kind of the it's like good enough for that's
Yeah.
as far as I need to count. That's the extent of my math.
Well, honestly, I mean, this takes me back to like grade school math. What was it, factorial or something? That, the way that how many connections, with you pulling them together. But I do think that, once you get to a certain point, I mean, it's what LinkedIn is you don't have close acquaintances per se, but you meet other people, but you can only have a certain amount of really close acquaintances because you're cognitively, you just can't attend to more than, a handful at one time.
True story. Yeah. We have a herring at the Sheldon Museum here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and there's a father and daughter that in a show that where the community got to choose a piece. They
Hmm.
hammed it up, and the show is Go Big Red. So any artwork that had red in it was fair game to be chosen by a community member. But they chose. You can kind of see it here. They chose this one. Oh, where'd it go? Um, yeah, it's got kind of two towers of the dancing or the stick figures that Herring does, and
Oh, there it is.
uh,
Yep.
they
Yep.
called um their poem. They wrote a poem together, father daughter, called Shoulders. So kind of
Oh,
the that the coaching thing maybe, or the parenting thing, or passing it on the creative creative spark. Herring has a connection, not literally to Nebraska, but conceptually. I My
hmm.
understanding is he was greatly inspired by a book called The Art Spirit by one Robert Henry, who grew up in Cozad, Nebraska. And if you when you read his book, it's like, yeah, they call it the art spirit, but it's really the play spirit, if you ask me. So uh that's some Nebraska creative, playful juices. I think that flow through like many pathways to Herring twice because I believe him and his dad started. He taught Keith how to start drawing when he was like four or so, and then they'd watch Disney and Looney Tunes and all that, and then so I guess Disney was a pretty big inspiration to him, and then it's like I stumbled across a clip of Disney talking about Robert Henry and how significant that had been to his
Oh, interesting.
creativity and like the ethos of Disney overall. Um, and then I think the other one, which I don't think has any connection to Herring, but I found interesting, was David Lynch. Like his documentary is kind of styled off of it's some play on that the art spirit, but so there's some Nebraska for you, filtering out into the world. And yeah, like I think he's so much. I'd seen a sculpture of his that had three figures of what I guess for sculpture phase, but three of the stick figures, but dancing at the and I had no idea. I'd never seen his work before, but having had that sort of um that conceptualization of the significance of the different numbers of figures in art, it was like it was perfect because it was stripped of everything except for just like the color and the figure, and it's like it was awesome. And I made it to Des Moines just to go see that sculpture, and like eventually I figured out that it was this Keith Haring and then all these other connections, and it's just that flow state just from the curiosity of like like what is this. So
Yeah, and what I understand about his work is he was inspired a lot around play and kids, right? Kids are very, very playful, and it played into his art, very simplistic, very, his stories that he told were really deep in the way that he created his characters and very expressive. They're always dancing, moving, right, to kind of bring a positive spin to the world. And yeah, so he's been very inspiring to me. I can tell you since God, I was in college years ago, when I first kind of ran across him, and I actually started drawing like him just because I was so inspired by it.
That is
The
awesome.
patron saint of positivity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, hey, Marshall McLuhan is a patron saint of Wired, so you know we're gonna have a patron saint too. So.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, no play. So like the intersection of play and art, there's it's like I think flow is a good case too. It's like usually my understanding is that the flow state kind of is when there's like a clear goal and it's that immediate feedback of how are things going um that that is part of what generates the flow because it's like that continuous understanding of what the goal is at each moment kind of helps you like lock in and get in the zone and it's like that can go towards things that are in a play context but it can go beyond the play context into serious endeavors as well. So flow, it feels like that one can walk in and out of play. And I've heard sort of like that being like yes, it often does, but then maybe like some sort of fun as like the emotional core or not maybe not even that's maybe not the right word, but like fun is like the center point. Like play is the action, fun is the hopeful result. uh, I think play it's the action is worth it for its own sake. That's part of the definition. And then when fun emerges, also it's like even cooler or flow or fun and flow. Like,
Yeah, I might even cast that and say that play is the method, the fun is the feeling, the emotion that comes when you play that allows your brain to disconnect from everything that's going on at that current time. And let me give an example of that because I'm a surfer too. And surfing,
mm,
same thing, right? When you get on a board and you're out there with it's you and the waves, it's just one with nature and you forget about everything. You're having so much fun. It's very playful. And
mm,
and it really kind of lends you to going deep inside introspection and kind of honing in on what's important. At least that's what I found, and I found hikers do the same thing. Obviously, working with at Nike, I had a lot of runner friends. Same thing. So
mm.
it all kind of plays together, and I think we've forgot about a lot of this stuff, in our society about how much it really makes, how much it's really a part of somebody's life, no matter whether they're a kid or they're 80 years old.
Yeah. And we're kind of circling art also. And it's like, I think there's maybe even a little twist there too that is something like the feeling of understanding the meaning of a work of art or the putting your own meaning on it. So
Yeah.
like I have that number one that I take with me to whatever work of art. But like is there something that comes to mind to describe that the emotional feeling of or that comes the emotional part of feeling and understanding with art or the putting your own meaning into it.
Hmm. That's really interesting. I had to think about that. Because I used to do quite a bit of art when I was a kid. I was a
Hmm.
painter.
Oh, cool.
And so I've done a lot of art. And then when it came to college or, high school, college, and then after college, I just sort of fell out of it. And so the past few years for me have really been trying to figure out what that is. I come back to the comedy thing because I think I found my art again. It may not be visual.
Hmm.
So coming back to your question, um, I'm not quite sure how to answer that, to be honest with you. Maybe you can say a little bit more and guide me a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I I did some consultation with my friend Gemini and Claude, and they were both like, yeah, there's really not a word for that. I was like, all right, let's make one up. And it's like clariphony. It's like two words
Clarification. Interesting.
that relate to seeing. And so it's like, all right, yeah. Like, I don't know. How do you, once you've smithed the word, how do you get it out there into the world? So I guess here we
That's
go. Maybe
interesting.
clariphony is going to be the word of the year now. So,
Well, let me throw a word out to you, which might be interesting. I heard this word. It's actually a Yiddish word. It's called Spielkies, and and it literally means ants in pants. Like when you're like you got so much energy that you're bouncing around. And I almost see that to some extent when you're having fun and playing. That's what you're feeling, right? This feeling of like just happiness, this joy, this like nothing else matters. So maybe the word, maybe I'll have to take your word and see what we can do, put it on LinkedIn and see what people, how it resonates with people.
yeah. What you said the surfing
Oh,
thing, there's been some interesting little reflections on it. One, this the effective altruism. It's like this notion is that
mhm.
the everything that we do, we're always measuring it against the number of preventable deaths that happen every day, like when it comes to the spending of money. And it starts with this example of like a little kid, drowning in a pond. And uh, if people are familiar with this, they know probably where I'm going with it. And it's basically that you can get this like um, this moral framework that's so perfectionistic that you feel guilty to play, and it's like,
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you get out of that mindset? And the best way that I've been able to come up with is like this idea of it's like friendship is the out, but it's also the call. Like treat yourself and others like you would a good friend. It's I think it's like
Yeah.
some sort of moral decency without the moral perfectionism, because we wind up not treating ourselves like a good friend if we're like beating ourselves up about the thing that we're not doing, and not we're doing ourselves no favor nor anyone else. Anyways,
Yep.
yeah. So but yeah, the just it's okay to play, I guess. is the,
Well, and
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 I
that's the thing. And I think in our society, oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Peter Singer has this book where it's all that, the whole book, and then he gets to this chapter at the end where he's just talking about surfing, and there's like dolphins and sunset, and like it's just this like perfect, beautiful moment, and it's like, well, how do you? There it is. He has it there, so it's like it shines through. Even with the person who does like the tightest job and putting that like that altruistic framework on top of things, and makes you not you don't eat meat for 2 weeks after you read one of his books. And
Yeah, well, it is interesting because, I think again, back in our society, we've kind of brought the Puritan sort of methodology forward and where play is seen as no good. And, how do you be okay with that? I think it takes some guidance, having people guide you through certain things like events or experiences where people can say, "All right, I'm going to turn off the adult. I'm just going to play and not worry about number one what people think, and number two knowing that I can only affect change in this circle versus this circle I can influence. In this circle, I have no effect at all." And once they get that taste of, wow, this is so freeing and amazing, I think that starts to help them get to that point where they can do that more often and be okay with saying, you know what, I'm not going to be serious right now. I'm just going to let this happen. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things that I'm really trying to bring with what I'm trying to do. Again, is giving permission to everyone that, you know what? It's okay. You can play.
So how did these projects start coming to you, and what's it been like so far?
Honestly, so long story short, I literally, so talking about permission, about a month ago, I gave myself permission to step into this next phase. So I'm still trying to discover, but the posting that I've put out there, even 3 posts, have just gone so incredibly large. I've had many people across the world reaching out and saying, yes, this is
Mhm.
exactly what we want, more of this. And so it just reaffirms that, hey, there's something here, there's something bigger to uncover, to bring to the world. So I haven't had projects per se yet. That's coming. So it's all new, and I don't know where this is going to end up, to be honest with you. But
Mhm.
I know that other people that I've had conversations with, they're kind of in that same state. So something is going on.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I like the surfing as a metaphor. Even with kind of like the the affective drives, it's like if they're there, it's like our consciousness is interacting with those drives somehow, and we all have strengths. There's a metaphor. I don't know if this is out there already, but there's like paper that has wildflower seeds in it, and
Hmm.
it's like we're all like a sheet of this wildflower seed paper, and that the seeds are our strengths. It's like they're there even if they've never had a chance to sprout or whatever. It's like,
Yep.
we'll everybody has strengths, no matter how wonderful things have been so far or how terrible things have been so far. It's like you've still got strengths,
Hmm.
and we can write kindness with them, to ourselves. I can buy myself flowers or whatever, or we can send it. So yeah, I think that's then the next little metaphor I've been playing with is like the paper airplane. So, yeah, you can write kindness, and sometimes it's like maybe you do a dart airplane and it's just like the throw and the big kindness or whatever, or maybe it's like a glider and it's just the nuance of the throw and seeing if you can catch a thermal or something even, and what's going to happen there. With the strengths finder with the via, I think there's kind of a
Hmm.
clustering with the strengths that, I'll say there's kind of like the constructive part where like the teacher role, the coach role, the mentor. I think that's kind of a constructive kindness that it's noticing the upside of someone's strengths, or being there, being able to uplift or whatever. And then there's, I think, compassion sort of is the showstopper for kindness, the prevention and alleviation of suffering. And I believe there's also like this other domain, with we spoke of several of the things that are in that already. The fun of play,
Hmm.
the flow that is one corner of play for sure, and also the part where there's like the like a docent who starts talking about a work of art, and then you find yourself like, it makes itself known as you're looking at the work of art, and it's uh that's, I think, so all of that, I think, what that's its own kind of kindness. It's about good in the moment, and it's like it's different from the mentoring and the constructive kindness. It's not really based on prevention or alleviation of suffering, but it feels like its own distinct thing. The best that I've been able to come up with for like an umbrella term, I'm going back to like Charlotte's Web, and one of those terms that Charlotte gives Wilbur, I think, is perfect, and that is radiant. So radiant kindness as an umbrella
Brilliant.
to cover all of those. Maybe there's another word, or like this is something else. There may already be a word for that type. You know, not that kindness needs to be chopped up. and analyzed. Like in some ways, I think it's one thing, that like intending or taking action for the good of another, self kind of being that interesting case, being a good friend to ourselves and others. But I think it's like
Mhm.
really the substance of friendship is, um, I think, radiant, playful, or constructive or compassionate kindness. Like it's, I think that play channel is particularly powered by the play drive. And then I think those other types of kindness in that radiant category are like just I emergent things maybe like that sort of grow as the prefrontal cortex gels or something.
Right, right. I want to build on that because this is really interesting because I talk a lot about, because when I'm talking about human systems, employee experiences or whatnot, I talk about trust. And trust
Hmm.
is without the trust, you can't be playful. I think, but play builds trust, right? Because you lay down your guard, you do things without judgment with between you and others. And so play helps you build trust between people, which lends itself to kind of pulling in now, not only you trust, but now you're kind. You're thinking about putting yourself in others' shoes and not doing things that might destruct that relationship. So trust for me has been I talk about that with my Nike alumni folks because as we're building out this community for alumni, trust is a big thing. And that's what I've seen over and over again. When you get people who really gel together and can be comfortable enough to play and be creative, they have that trust.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's something that caught my eye last year from Gallup, and that is trust has a contender. That is hope.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
interesting.
it's hope came in at 56%. They, I think they asked people, let's see, how did they do it? What, like, let's see, three words that best describe what this person contributes to your life. And it's the four needs of leaders and followers. Yeah, it's like what I think it's like, what do you want to see from the leader at your organization or something like that?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what are the
yeah.
top three things? And like,
It's so
I think it,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, now I think there's sort of a little bit of a shell game with hope going on here. I think when most people think of hope, it's something like the future can be better. And when you get into like hope science, like there's hope on the via, it's a set of cognitive skills. So
Hmm.
I've been throwing on, instead of saying hope science hope, practical hope, just to like differentiate a little bit. But it's my understanding is it's more like the ability to create meaningful goals and pathways to those goals continuously. Slightly different, but it kind of resonates with like belief hope as well. But sorry, I got so excited when you said trust, and I
No,
wanted to
no,
bring
that's
hope into the conversation that I forgot where you were going. So
no, no, this is totally okay because as you're talking about this, I'm sitting there looking at hope and going, what is it about that when people say they want that in their leader? And maybe what that really means is they want their leader to be human. And right, humans, because I have experiences, and I'll take Intel as an example. I had some great leaders, and I had some very technical, uncaring leaders, and the ones that really were great had created that air of I'm just human. I'm not perfect, right? And so
mm,
driving hope, when people work for a company, they want hope in a better way of doing things, that I'm doing this for a purpose. So now I can see why that sits in that leadership. Trust is just a baseline. Like if you don't have that, you can't even have hope. Well, maybe that's reversed, but that's something to really dig into. It's really interesting. I could be wrong, but to me, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if it's quite like this, but trust would be like when if you're going down the street and you see the mayor and you like and you start talking about like filling potholes or something. It's like like there's more than just filling potholes, but the
Right, right,
potholes need to
right.
be filled, it's yeah. Uh, so
Yeah, that's something I need to dig into. That's and now that you brought that up, I had never even would have even thought that that was higher than trust. So,
Yeah, and on the practical hope, I've kind of thought of that as like the center of constructive kindness to self. Like if we have some kind of habit where I think we can look at strengths as values, or at some point, like I think it's good to kind of take the existentialist route and look at ourselves as like self-created, so set all the strengths finders, all the personality tests aside, and it's just you and infinite freedom. Like, who are you? you know who
hmm
shall I
hmm
be? And I think I've heard values described as chosen qualities of being or doing, and like finding something that we can say yes to in that way is like, I think it like, how many goals can you derive from a value? I think it's infinity. So if
Yeah.
we're able to get to a place where we can say yes to proactively living some value of adding something to the world or figuring out a way that you can continuously engage with it, that's like a connection for infinite practical hope. And it's like, well, that's pretty cool. That almost like might be the kind of thing that could lead to big belief hope. The future can be better.
I think yes, I think there is definitely something there around that. Because if you, I mean, yeah, we're all a creation of both our values and the environments that we grew up in, right? So, but our values give us the North Star to why we choose the things that we do and the things that we don't do, I would say too. So, um, I do think that that does play into it and helps drive, like you said, if you had all this freedom in the world, you're still going to make choices based upon what's inside of you and the values that you believe in.
Yeah. I I've had another thought that is to proactively try to live each of these types of values, these big domains of kindness, the constructive, the radiant, the compassionate, and to try to at least have some kindness habit in each of those domains, and to have a value, like a core value that I can like articulate and say yes to. So for me, let's see, the constructive or the compassion, wait, let's see, compassionate, that treat yourself and others like you would a good friend. The radiant, um create games that you want to play. And then for the constructive, don't let the good life get in the way of a better life.
That's it. Yeah, don't let the good life get win a better life. That's very interesting.
I made a map.
It's
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
no, 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 no. I was just thinking about that because a friend of mine and I are kind of at this phase where like, what really matters at this point? Being in your late 50s and heading into sort of retirement and knowing that, yeah, you can save all the money in the world that you want, but then you retire at 70 and then you get sick and so you can't even enjoy it. So what really matters? And driving that out.
Yeah. I I kind of like mapped out the 24 strengths of the via to those kindness categories. And it's I think it's like 10, 10, and 4, or 10, 10, and 5, or 8, 9, and 5. I've what something, but uh I think it kind of they're kind of clues maybe to we're all wired in a unique way that I think if we
Mhm.
like focus on our strengths and figure out how we can turn them into kindness to self and others, it's like everything's going to be more awesome. Like everything is
Yeah.
awesome when you're part of the strengths based team. There's my little twist on the
Yeah,
Lego
there
theme
you go.
song.
Well, it's funny because in the business world, what they do, you know, what it's typically been every year is like, okay, let's work on your weaknesses. And in the last 10 years, I've really seen the shift to focusing on your strengths because it's true. You can only do so much to make your weaknesses better, but if you focus on where you're really strong, you can take things so much further.
I think there's like, a deeper concept than the 24 strengths on the Via and the 34 on the Gallop. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of infinite strengths that's potential, but it's like those concrete anchor points I think have been like maybe something like a can opener for like or Pandora's box, it probably feels like to some,
To
because it's
some, yeah.
like, oh, what's wrong? Like, that's a little more, we can see that it's a little more, that's like less because again, it's like multiple infinities for like,
Yep.
the up. It's like that's almost like the positive potential is almost scarier than like what's wrong. I think sometimes.
Well, so that's a curious thought, scarier. Because I see, like I tell people, you know, when somebody says, "Well, here's a glass and there's this much water in it," how would you describe that? And I'm the guys. This is half full, not half empty, kind of, glass. And by being having that perspective, I think you tend to be a lot more open to a lot of different things, which allows that strength to really blossom. And like you're saying, there are just multiple places that you can go being positive. Positive, just everything's an opportunity when you look at it from a positivity lens.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you're at a transition point, is what I'm kind of hearing.
Yep.
And like the future is emerging as we
Hmm.
speak. And so,
Literally as we speak. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So this is kind of a lot aligned with that idea of the infinite possibility, but adding some concrete form to things. Uh, the seed paper isn't going to make for a great actual paper airplane, but symbolically, I think the paper airplane kind of can symbolize the constructive kindness, and the there's at first I heard of the tradition of folding 1,000 paper cranes as sort of a an act done for healing for yourself or for someone else. And then there's a painting in the Sheldon Museum of Art here in Lincoln of like three men, and they're like playing with paper boats, and it's like
Yeah.
that's cool. And so I'd had that sort of compassion with the crane and the play with the paper boat. So we're going to write kindness, or we're going to write our core value for each kind of kindness that we're going to proactively build on to like proactively add that to the world. I think the reason for that is that it'll expand our ability to respond to the situations at hand that we find ourselves in, but to have some intentional and proactiveness to it, to write a value for each, on every card, and then whatever the specific goal is, or the act of kindness, or the hour of volunteerism, to like draw a picture of what our goal is, and then what kind of fold are we going to give it, the crane,
Mm.
the boat, or the plane.
The
um,
plan.
and then I saw this documentary about cranes, and there's like they the estimate is like 600,000 cranes that wind up near Kearney, Nebraska every year for this great migration.
Oh,
And
wow.
apparently, like, there's the pecking order and so it looks like they're kind of in a game or whatever, but it's the dominance thing. So let's
Hmm.
exclude
Hmm.
that. They've got their mating dances and all that, so let's exclude that. And what's left? There's still like so much play. There's no, there's no anything to it other than they're playing. Like, so
Hmm.
I reversed the meaning from what I originally started with for the forms, and now I think the boat kind of like, oh yeah, like, sometimes I think I can get so caught up in the radiant things that it's like I tend not to notice that my boat has a leak. It's like maybe people are like, "Hey, your boat has a leak in it." Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, but like isn't this a great like, you know, uh like boat party or like,
It's not about the leak, it's about what you created and put out into the world.
yeah." So I think fortunately there are these groups where a bunch of leaky boats get together and somehow magically they stay afloat. So I'm a part of several of those things, and very grateful that those exist. Very grateful that the strengths perspective has emerged. And
Agreed.
here's a little bit of history, little bit of history. I'll brag on Lincoln. Um, Going back to the early '50s, there was a mentoring program where think of like mentoring like an Olympic sport. So you're looking for young people that are already sort of taking on that coaching role to their peers, the
Hmm.
lifting, whether it's through action or just arm around the shoulder kind of support for when your peers are down. And the college, UNL, they asked the local public school district, if you see kids like this, like send them our way. We'll match them with a college student cut from similar cloth. The real, uh, intended beneficiary is the peers of the mentee, because they're already kind of the kindness agent, let's say.
Hmm.
And they notice the sort of the flourishing, the thriving of that bond between mentor and mentee kind of varied. And so they were then like, what's the difference? Are there some things among the mentors where things are really vibrant? Could it be that there's something there that accounts for some of that flourishing? And they came up with a kind of a set of characteristics that they thought might be predictive. They used that to
Oh,
screen
interesting.
um, future cohorts. So, again, it's kind of like the Olympics, kind of like talent scouting, talent assessment approach, but to mentoring and to kindness. And so it's kind of like competitive kindness. It's, or, it's like, but apparently it kind of worked, and the thriving, the flourishing, and the impact on peers like elevated from that. And if you trace back the Clifton strengths, he was one
Hmm.
of the professors that founded that mentoring program.
That's interesting. I had no idea. Yeah, I'd like to learn more about that actually. Yeah.
To me, it looks like kindness project with someone who has maximizer that's guiding the creation of the project. It's like,
Yep. Yep.
what's good, or like Jim Collins, good to great. Like, what's good? Can we make it great?
Can we make it
Like,
even better? Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where strengths. So to point the strengths back to kindness, it feels like it's a return from where it came from.
I think you're pointing out something. I think you're starting to see, at least I'm going to take it from the perspective of the business world, is that we went so far away from the human side of things that we started, the people that did the science that were saying, hey, there's science behind this, that you'll have a better company, you'll have better profits, this and that some people started to bring it internally, and it started to change that culture. And now I think that, yeah, the return to human, now we're in this little funky phase at the moment. but I think we'll get through that and return back to the human. And in fact, my LinkedIn, basically my tagline is putting the human back in humanity, because I think we've really lost that. So I love what you're saying here. Yeah.
I think the strengths finder or just the strengths approach, it points to like an authentic way of doing it because we've shifted from the I guess you could say communitarian, I guess is the word, more of a we centric values, individuals holding we centric values and being, seeing themselves as like a part of things that really rose in the first half of the 20th century, and that it's kind of been on the downslide, I think, since the mid 60s, according to Robert Putnam and Bowling Alone and Social Capital and all that. And um, so, the upside of that shift to maybe the I focused values has been personal development, which can be
Hmm.
awesome too. And it's like, it feels like the strengths are open ended enough to that you can get down to the unique, this, it's, if you're worried about constrictive, this is, sorry, don't tell Myers and Briggs that I said this, but it feels like a little constrictive and a little tight that there's only 16 things. When you
Yeah.
go over to Gallup's with their 34 strengths and their suggestion to look at your top five, of those possibilities, there are 33 million. It feels like a lot more room
Combination.
to,
Yeah.
you know, uh, so that like, it's like, I'm just picturing with 8 billion people, there's a tribe of like 200 some odd people out there that are like just like me. Not that,
Oh, yeah.
not that I need to meet them, but it's just knowing that they're there, like somewhere out there. So,
Right. There's so many different perspectives. And yeah, I think you're right to that some extent, and I think that's one of the things a lot of people say about Myers-Briggs. It's too limiting. And for me, I don't use it as a strict, you are X, but it's a framework to help understand. But I do love the fact that StrengthsFinder has those 30 some million ways of being. And I think that really is the case because everyone's unique. No, but there is no sameness. People may try to be the same, but each of us come from, again, the product of what our values are, what we've grown up in, and how, that environment has shaped us.
yeah. So I'm I'm kind of like, I'm picturing kindness battles. Tribal kindness battles from the house of the crane, the house of the plane, and the house of the boat, or the boathouse. We just call them the boathouses, I guess.
The boathouse.
I don't,
It's a competition to see who can be kinder to the others. Then, yeah, interesting.
there was a community kindness project that I got to help on the community engagement with it one year, and we took it to that place where we suggested like, hey, take a moment to reflect on the kindness that you've done this past year, or that you could do during this season for this project. Write your act of kindness, then write a second sentence like, how did it make you feel, or what was the experience like, that sort of that taking that moment to reflect to maybe
Hmm.
increase the likelihood of some kind of elevation in round two. And then we use the seed paper and the Sheldon, uh, like the idea, and they came up with this phrase, seeds of kindness. Like, it had a specific anchor called the Cameron effect, and it was a response to a mother and father who lost their son to a drunk driver, and with the media attention sort of being basically like anger towards the driver that hit them, they took the media opportunity to turn it towards, have this be about something positive. So they kind of turned it to a call for kindness. And yeah, we got to work with them, and the Sheldon Museum, they came up with that phrase, seeds of kindness. They universalized it, I guess you could say. And at the time, I did not see that, like, oh, strengths and the person, like we're each like a sheet of seeded paper. But now I see it and I can't not see it.
Yep. And once you
That's
see it, you can't unsee it.
yeah. So like I've kind of yeah, I've revisited that moment and it's like, okay, here at the Sheldon is a painting of a paper boat. There have been events on cranes and there have been planes thrown, at the Sheldon. So it's like it feels like it's kind of all there as a launch site. I don't know how they feel about that, but it feels like
Have you talked to them? Yeah.
well, not yet. There I saw there's like a have you seen this Neuro Arts? I think it's Neuro Arts Blueprint
Uh-uh.
Initiative. It's like a bunch of foundations. They're kind of looking at like the not it's like the positive psychology visits art therapy, and instead it's like let's take a sciency of eye as possible, but what are the upside effects of the arts in the lives of humans? And uh, there's I guess a duo locally that they've done like a live score to a documentary on the Sandhill Cranes, and I mean, it kind of, I'm just in, I mean, I kind of like psych myself up for this or whatever. So, no expectation, I don't want to whatever over place anything too great on it because I think the idea is sufficient to run with no matter how things go. But it's like, yeah, it's super cool just to see that interest go in well-being science touching on this corner of of the human experience to this corner of the human experience and um yeah, it feels like it's like pretty holistic, and I'm glad you brought up a friend that had been some neurodiversity. I think that's kind of another place where it can go, and uh being a benefit to people. I think that's
Yeah.
like the compassionate, and I think it's like you can have any kindness as the goal, compassionate, playful, or radiant, and then it's like the pathway can be something else. So compassionate goal, playful, radiant pathway.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I'll give you a little more information to kind of why that perspective seeds really well from. My daughter is also neurodivergent. Um,
Mm.
she's a high functioning on the autism spectrum also, and so I've had many people in my life go, I don't know how you had the patience to work with that. I'm just like, look, she's a beautiful soul, and growing up and, she's different. Yeah, she just has a different perspective in the way that she sees things. Doesn't make her any less of a person for being that way. And but again, I think maybe it came from my parents who always see it. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. So, I grew up with a lot of different kinds of things going on. And my parents did, I'm grateful to my parents who really instilled in me that perspective of being kind to others.
Mm.
Sorry, my
Yeah.
dog just, I don't know if you heard my dog's
No,
back
not at
here
all.
whining. I just want to make sure that she didn't come through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think that like that's another whole area of well-being. The pets, like
Yep. Yep.
you you talked about surfing, and I just sort of picture like we're just a part of the web of life.
Mhm.
We're just a
Mhm.
part.
Mhm. We are travelers on the same journey.
Yeah, doggone it.
Literally. And I've got two of them and a cat. So yeah, I actually end up, my family calls me the animal whisperer because anytime I go out, all the animals and little babies come up and they're like, ah. So maybe this is why I'm so into this play thing, is because again, I just have a young soul.
That's awesome. How was your daughter's journey? Did she have an IEP with the school
Yes.
district by
Yeah, my
chance?
wife really had to fight the school district. I mean, they just were not prepared for all that. It was quite the journey. It was a hard journey. But I will say once she got the IEP and moved into a different school where they actually had the framework to help kids with that, she accelerated tremendously in her growth. Now, I didn't have expectations as far as what she wanted in life and where she was going. I just wanted her to be able to pay her own bills and be happy.
Beautiful. There's a group in New Zealand that is using positive psychology to help parents prepare for the IEP meeting. And it's basically just taking this practical hope and having the parent like on your own for your own good, like, what are your values, what can your life be about, goals, and then
Hmm.
it's like just to get the whole picture of things, and then to bring it down to goal of helping child to navigate the IEP.
Yep.
And then some of the youth that are at a point where they can grasp all the cognitive parts of it, the I guess the youth, they were like, well, we want to do that too for themselves, so that there's like a peer kind of support version of it. But it's
That's
a
interesting.
network for parents, that's sort of just built in well-being. So this to me is the preeminent example of sort of community level compassionate end with a constructive means,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
the pathway, with practical hope as the center point of it all. And I have not seen anything quite this meaningful being done with positive psychology, and that you like mentioned that specific thing. I thought I wanted to share that with you in case that might be of interest. I'd love to connect you with Onyx. She was a guest on the show not too long ago. I think her initial research was leadership, well-being science and leadership, and then her and a colleague had both navigated that journey of, they're both like college professors, and it's like
Hmm.
for them it was a challenge to navigate this process having an autistic child, but they kind of put their heads together, and they're like, we did it. Like, not everybody has the means and resources that we do. Like, maybe we could,
Yeah.
like, do something
Help
to,
others.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I would be interested. Yeah. Yeah, please do connect me. This is interesting. I hadn't thought about this, and my daughter is now in like 30 or 31, but still, I mean, I still think that this could help her in her navigation through life and help her understand why things happen that she just doesn't quite understand, that you and I would understand.
That's beautiful that
A
you've walked that journey.
Absolutely. I mean, we have walked that journey, and not everyone has, and it just helps because there's just so much a misunderstanding, I think, for a lot of folks. And I have a lot of friends that actually turns out it's funny, that in my um, just in my network and colleagues that kind of in Intel, obviously it's a technical company. There were a lot of folks that kind of were very neurodivergent, and they just came up with these just amazing perspectives that I was like, how did you think of that? I would not have put two and two together that way. So I'm always trying to support the community and support others because, it takes all it takes all people to raise the village to the next level.
And I thought of something that I can say. Well-being science, when I look back on it, is a giant special interest, and there's so many pieces within it to hyper focus on.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm sure some people will be able to decode that.
Yeah, I'm sure that people will understand that, and I don't know your audience per se, but yeah, that's there's just so much to unpack here, and I think the positive psychology can play a role in helping folks in this space to really feel like they are a part of our community and this world versus feeling. I know that my daughter has always felt like she, especially in school, got teased a lot and got pushed to the "you're another" kind of thing.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. I think I had a kind of a parent that wanted to avoid the. I mean, I had, gifted, at risk, like I had some already. So yeah, it was, but anyways,
Yeah,
yeah, I can relate. I can relate.
yeah, yeah. I'll
Yep.
say it is hard for a lot of parents, because
Yep.
you only want the best for your kids,
Oh
and
yeah.
when you find and see them like they can't operate in this environment that has a specific way of doing things, you worry how they're going to be able to navigate. And so you just want them to do the best. But there are a lot of parents that just don't understand, and they're kind of caught in going back to that sort of, when I talk about the path that you're supposed to follow. So they're not understanding enough because they haven't had experience to understand that not everyone can and or wants to go that path.
If a person has a special interest, it's like that is something to celebrate, because without that, it could mean a world of nothingness.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting because one of the things that I found, and actually I have another good friend whose daughter is also on the spectrum too. Maybe this is why I'm here in this world, right? Is to kind of connect all the dots
Mm.
and create a better world in this way. But what I found is that my daughter and his daughter are into anime, and that's a big space that a lot of these kids come together and feel like they can be themselves around.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it can be anything. It can be anything. And I've started to see programming that is grabbing trauma informed as a part of talking about doing what they do. So not just assuming that whoever shows up that everything's okay, like not assume that it's not okay, or that it's wonderful. Like just so I'm picturing a world where it's like trauma informed, neuro spiciness informed, strengths based, and then fill in the blank.
Yep, yep, and it informs their worldview and helps them navigate forward. I love neurospicy. I actually just love that. So I'm going to use that. I hope you don't mind.
Where I'm like Carolina Reaper. So-
Hot and spicy.
yeah, yeah, definitely at least ghost pepper for sure. Like
There you go. 20,000 Scovilles or whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like yeah, let's go. Oh yeah.
And this is also where I think pets and animals can really make a difference too. Because it's I mean, who doesn't walk into a room where there's a happy puppy and they just melt? I mean, maybe there'd be one or two people that I could think of that wouldn't connect, but pretty much 90%
Hmm.
of the world, I think. And so how could these things be used in a way to instigate change in a positive way? Well, and we keep building off of each other. And yeah, and I would love to, let's stay in touch and figure out how I see this, I've always seen this in my own personal mind as a movement. And I want to bring others along. And because
Yeah.
we're all trying to do similar things, how can we help each other? And again, going back to how do we make a difference with everything that's going on? Man, let's give
Oh
some
yeah.
hope for the next generation.
And I think play builds the foundation for both the that belief hope and the practical hope.
Yeah.
From its just what's the word? F around and find out kind of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. FAFO, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and yeah,
But in this
completely.
case, I would say play around and find out
There
for
we
our
go.
case.
Yes, thank you for
Yeah.
the yes. Please feel free to redirect me at any moment. So, and
No worries. I tend to do that a lot. I actually help a lot of people. It's like, I'm thinking about saying this. Like, well, what if you cast it like this? It's like, oh, yeah. So that's
yeah,
another one of my superpowers. So that's the play. That's
cool.
the creative mind.
I will hit you up on that for sure. So,
Yeah, no worries.
yes, and yeah, I do highly recommend this kit. I'm holding up one of the Keith Haring Lego
Yep.
figures. I picked out a set on July 11th. Sorry if I'm butchering this. That's to Catherine in Chicago with Shine Hope. She helped to start an International Day of Hope. They There's a country, Kiribati, that they put a thing to the United Nations and it passed, and so now there's a International Day of Hope. I didn't. This was my celebration this year. Last year we did like a community celebration. Two arts organizations in Lincoln collaborated on that. This year we did something for the International Day of Play. I've got this idea to have the first Sunday in December be an International Day of Strengths, and so just like
Mm,
pretend like it's a thing until it becomes a thing, kind of.
yep.
And uh, we'll see how that goes. And then that's kind of been like my play has been organizing community events. I just love that to, that intersection of community and well-being science, like what can be. So I think
Yep.
play has kind
Yep.
of opened up um a whole new vista and layer to that. And I recently found that at the table at the very first Positive Psychology Summit, which also took place in Lincoln, Nebraska, this happened in 1999, and one Brian Sutton Smith, one of the central, I believe, from an anthropological tradition
Mhm.
around play, was at the table. And in the proceedings that came out, his talk was not a chapter. So I think it's just kind of been maybe like relative to well-being science, play science, it's kind of been like just maybe like benign neglect from the core positive psychology, but it's kind of like
Mm,
in a way like play is the thing. There's no, I mean, it is well-being itself. So it's like you
yep.
can measure it, sure, but it's like that's beside the point. But I mean, if we can create metrics that it help create a world where there's more of it, cool. But it's like
Well, I see it. Yeah.
they don't need, it's like maybe it was for the best. I don't know, but I feel kind of like I'm connectedness is one of my strengths. So it's like, let's bring it back together. Like, so,
I, I'm in. I'm so in. I'm now seeing this bigger. It's not just International Day of Play, but there's the hope. There's the wellness piece, and it's interesting because there's another thing that I actually was kind of working on up until recently. I have another colleague that started this thing called Move Oregon because we're talking about how in our culture we are very sedentary and
mhm.
tech has been good but also bad because now we don't move throughout the
Yeah,
day, and so we're trying to start
yeah,
this movement about let's get healthy again, and that means more than just physically. That's mentally. It's everything around wellness. So I just want to see that with you because I think maybe looking at the future, we could figure out sort of a theme and like play on these together, the play, the wellness, and build a broader movement.
yeah. And just right off the bat, instantly, just it's like, okay, play constructive radiant, like boom, right there. Just anything movement wise, it typically gets radiant and it is constructive to literally constructive of physical self. So
Hmm.
um yeah, awesome. Yes. Well, I believe that your via came out correctly when it put creativity at the top. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, my that was the last time that I did this thing that happened to me as well. Um Curiosity is still way high up there. I think it's probably like I don't know, maybe like number six because it fell off my top five. But
Right, right.
zest, hope, humor. I like the part in the parentheses for that one. Playfulness, the humor part. When I tell people that I got that on the survey, it's when I then when I say the playfulness part, they say, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're playful." Yeah, that's yes. uh,
Y-
it's like one of those things where they tell you you have a face for radio, that kind of thing, you know.
Well, I said you had a radio voice, not the face. So because you do, you have that very, it just comes across as very, very articulate and very powerful. So, yeah, I'll definitely
I'll
see
attribute
that.
that to the web of life.
Experience.
I can't take
Yes.
credit for that. Yeah. Yeah, no, that so I think it's something like the mapping of um now this is probably just because it, you know, when I say this should be like, ah, okay, yeah, no bias there. Uh the distribution of strengths. So there are five in the radiant register, the via whatever the bridge that I came up with. It's Gemini and Claude approved, so it's got to be right, right? uh,
That's right. Yeah.
and four out of my five are in the radiant register. So it's kind of, I
That says
feel like
something. Yeah.
this is the lane for kindness and community projects. It's probably best for me to be in. So I will just stay there and keep up the community level constructive radiant kindness thing. And it's great to meet people that also have the compassionate
Yep.
lane
Yep.
as a part of the thing too, and that is that is much appreciated. To It's like I kind of have that feeling like if I stick with my strengths, I will meet people that are like filling in the gaps of the things that I'm not doing, and like, well, well, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. I think is
Yep.
that
Well,
Ligard of
and you
Bingen.
compliment. Yeah, you complement each other, and you're stronger together because of that.
Better Together. I remember that as like I think
Better
the
together.
second book after Bowling Alone. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
let's
yeah.
do that.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, David Shaw, for being a guest on the show. Closing thoughts you'd like to leave people with? Where can they go to find out more? Join you on your journey. What next?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks for inviting me. I'm honored to be here and be a part of this. Feel free to reach out to me. You can obviously connect on me on LinkedIn. It's David Shaw. You just search for David Shaw, either Intel or Nike. I also have a website. It's in progress. I'm rebranding because this is all emergent. That you can reach me and find me at davidshaw.me. And you can also send me an email at david@davidshaw.me. That's the best way to reach me.
Very cool. I hope people do. I know I will. And yeah, thank you so much.